Welcome back to Daily ACM, a deep dive into A Course in Miracles. Today we're exploring Lesson 153.
Lesson 153. In my defenselessness, my safety lies. This one really turns things on its head, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It challenges, well, pretty much everything we're taught about protecting ourselves.
Exactly. And it makes so much sense coming right after Lesson 152.
Right, the one about being harmless because we're one with God.
Yeah, if you start from that place, that inherent harmlessness, that connection, well, then the idea of needing defenses starts to feel a bit off, doesn't it?
It really does. Like if I'm fundamentally safe and harmless in my connection to the divine, what am I actually defending against?
Precisely. Lesson 152 sort of lays down the foundation of inner peace, and then 153 says, okay, now, instead of trying to guard that peace with, walls and shields,
Just drop them.
just drop them. Acknowledge the peace by letting go of the need to defend it. It flips the script entirely on, conventional safety. We're so conditioned to look outwards for protection.
We really are. Locks on doors, passwords, insurance. It's all about external safeguards. So this concept that being less defended makes you more safe,
Yeah.
it takes a minute to sink in.
It definitely does. And the Course dives into why we feel that need for defense in the first place.
Which is?
Fundamentally, it traces back to fear. The fear that comes from feeling separate, isolated, like a small, vulnerable self in a potentially hostile world.
That feeling of being alone against everything else.
Yeah, exactly. But the Course suggests that whole picture, the separate self, the hostile world, isn't the ultimate reality. It's a perception born of fear.
Okay, so if fear and separation are driving the defensiveness, what's the path? Lesson 153 points towards instead.
It points inward, towards a safety that's rooted in trust, not control. It's saying, look, let go of trying to manage every threat, trying to build impenetrable walls.
And trust, what exactly?
Trust in your inherent connection to, well, what the Course calls the divine or God or spirit. Trust that there's a deeper source of security within you that doesn't depend on external conditions being perfect.
So the real strength isn't in the walls, but in the willingness to trust that you don't need them.
Exactly. It reframes strength completely. We usually think strength is about being tough, invulnerable, guarded.
Right, like having thick skin.
But here, strength is presented as vulnerability, openness, the courage to not put up the walls. Think about it, sharing how you really feel, being honest even when it's scary. That takes immense strength.
That's a really good point. It takes far more courage to be open than to just shut down or fight back.
And that openness, that defenselessness, is what actually allows for real connection. When you drop the defenses, you drop the barriers between you and others and between you and your own true self.
Because those defenses we think protect us. They also block love, block understanding.
Absolutely. They keep everything out, the good and the perceived bad. Seeking safety through external means, through being guarded, the lesson argues, actually tends to lead to more conflict and distress.
How so? Because we end up creating what we fear.
Sort of, yes. If you approach every interaction expecting an attack, you're more likely to interpret things negatively, react defensively, and, well, provoke the very conflict you're trying to avoid. You put out that defensive energy.
I can see that. It's like wearing armor makes people wary of you, maybe even makes them feel they need their armor.
Right. And this whole idea ties directly into the Course's main goal, doesn't it? The shift from fear to love.
It seems central. Letting go of defenses is basically letting go of fear and choosing trust, choosing love instead.
Precisely. Recognizing that your true safety isn't in external fortifications, but in that inner state of peace and connection.
Okay, this makes conceptual sense. It's powerful. But how do we actually do this? It feels like such a deep habit, being defensive.
It is. It's deeply ingrained for most of us. But you can start small. One simple practice is a short daily meditation.
Like just sitting quietly.
Yeah, maybe just 5 minutes. Sit down, close your eyes, and just focus on the idea. In my defenselessness, my safety lies. Intentionally visualize letting go of any shields, any tension, any need to protect yourself mentally or emotionally.
So consciously practicing the feeling of being open.
Exactly. Just inviting that sense of peace and trust in, even for a few minutes. It builds that muscle, so to speak.
Okay, that feels doable.
Yeah.
What about, say, in a disagreement? That's when the defenses really tend to pop up.
Oh, absolutely. So when you feel that urge, that heat rising, the need to prove your point, to defend your position, try to just pause, take a breath.
Stop for a second.
Yeah. And ask yourself, what am I really afraid of here? Is it about being wrong, losing face? See if you can identify the underlying fear. And then maybe, just maybe, consider approaching it differently. Could you listen openly instead of just preparing your counter-argument?
It's challenging, but I see the value.
Yeah.
Less arguing, potentially more understanding.
Potentially, yes. Or think about relationships. How often do we hold back our true feelings or fears because we want to seem strong or protect ourselves from getting hurt?
All the time, probably.
So another way to practice is to experiment carefully with a bit more vulnerability. Sharing something real without the usual protective layers. It can actually deepen connection rather than expose you to harm, surprisingly often.
It requires trust, both in yourself and the other person.
It does. And one more thing you could try is journaling.
How would that work for this lesson?
Well, maybe reflect on a time recently when you felt really defensive. Write about it. What triggered it? What were you feeling? And then ask yourself, how might that situation have unfolded differently if you'd consciously chosen defenselessness or openness?
Like a post-game analysis, but focusing on the inner state. What fears were running the show? Could openness have changed the dynamic?
Exactly. It helps you become more aware of your patterns.
This deep dive has certainly given me a lot to think about. The idea that safety isn't about building higher walls, but about realizing you don't need them. It's profound.
It really is. It points towards a strength that comes from within, from trust, not from external circumstances. It really invites you to look at where you're defensive and ask, what if I just let that go for a moment? What might happen?
A powerful question indeed. Thank you for exploring this with us.
It's a lesson worth sitting with, for sure. It asks, fundamentally, if our true nature is harmless and connected to love, what's actually left to defend?
Thank you for joining us. Please like, share, and subscribe. See you tomorrow.